welcome in and back to Duval versus y'all. We have a great show going on today. We got my guy Dan Mitchell with Bills Mafia and also, more importantly, with Roundtable Sports. He's gonna be blessing the podcast today. I've seen a lot of stuff online. You're polarizing. I have to tell you that.
Yeah, man. Surprisingly enough, it's not just with the city of Jacksonville; it's with my own fan base as well.
Yeah.
And to be completely honest with you, it's part of the game. But I've had a couple of conversations already. I hopped on XL last night. I thought that I was just going to get cornered and stuff along those lines. But surprisingly enough, it was definitely a super pleasant experience. And then I actually checked with Dalton, like right before I hopped on this one. I was just like, tell me about this Connor guy. All right.
Yeah.
Is this going to be like a gotcha type stream? And then he gave the blessing. So I'm happy we were able to make it happen.
Yeah, UCF's awesome. So glad to have you on. I want to start off with some hot takes, though. What's like the biggest hot take that you've had about this game that people are giving you shit for?
So I'd probably say the run defense over in Jacksonville. And it's not so much that Jaguars fans are like really like doubling down and saying that James Cook is not going to do anything. It's more so my own fan base where they're saying, oh, we look at the numbers over in Jacksonville, least amount of rushing yards on the season. For some reason, people want the Buffalo Bills to completely ignore the run game. Yeah. And I think that's asinine, right? Because there has been so many different times where we've gone up against defenses that ranked relatively well when it came into stopping that specific rushing attack. And we have the number one rush title in James Cook, one of the number one like offensive lines in the league by itself. So I'd say it's that, man. I'm like super confident that this Buffalo Bills team is going to make that a big part of their offense, at least starting the game. I think it's going to be more so like tapping into inside and outside zone. Yeah. That's where Jacksonville is letting up the most yards per carry. But I'd say that's probably the biggest one.
Yeah, no, that's not a bad one, and I can see why that ruffles a lot of feathers here, especially because we're proud of the number one rush defense. I will say this though, and I've been saying this for weeks about our own defense on our podcast. It is, when we've played some bad teams, and when we did play like Jonathan Taylor and stuff, it seemed to be basically shutting them down. But I will say this, if you go through like the Jets game at times, or if you go to the Titans game early, there's little pockets like what you're talking about with like in duo and inside zone and stuff like that, where we do, if you can get two guys on Devon Hamilton or nose tackle, sometimes he gets pushed back. He's been great most of the season. That's actually why we rank so high. But in some schemes, it feels like we struggled a little bit. Still, again, nobody's gotten over, I think, 75 yards.
Yeah.
But at times, I can still see a great offensive line and a good running back that be in trouble. I really think Josh Allen, too.
Mm-hmm.
I think Joe Brady's going to design a lot of design runs for him, too.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Joe Brady, too, because news just ended up breaking that like he was actually invited for an interview over in Baltimore.
I saw that.
And I really think that this Joe Brady situation, so I'm not sure if you recall 3 years ago when Bobby Slowick was the offensive coordinator in Houston, his name was dominating the headlines for potentially being a head coach candidate, stayed in Houston one more year, obviously down year, and he was fired. Right. I really think that this game, a lot of people are talking about how much pressure is on Josh Allen. I would argue that Joe Brady's career literally hangs in the balance. It's either that he's going to win this game, he's going to get a head coaching position, or he loses and he's going to get fired. I think that's largely how it's going to play out.
I think you're pointing the finger in the wrong direction. And
what makes you say that?
So a lot of the narrative I heard about Josh Allen, I agree with you. I think it's bullshit. Like, he's performed in the playoffs. It's not him. I also don't think it's Joe Brady. I've said this twice on both of our podcasts this week. This is Sean McDermott's last game as Buffalo Bills with the Buffalo Bills. I don't think, I'm not inside the building, and I'm not close enough where you guys are at.
Mm-hmm.
Is he a defensive coach?
Yeah, he's a defensive-minded head coach.
Do they have a good defense? Have they had a good defense lately?
So when it comes into the playoffs, not particularly.
Yeah.
It sucks though, right? Because like very oftentimes I would say head coaches end up getting fired more so due due to personnel execution
Yep.
rather than their particular scheme, right?
Yeah.
You reflect back, and the one coaching mistake where I would say, okay, McDermott, that's on you was 13 seconds,
Yeah.
110%. Like you go out there running prevent against the Kansas City Chiefs at any point, of course, they're going to march down the field and tie it up, right?
Yeah.
Like you ultimately end up looking at the past couple of playoff losses. We were going into Kansas City with some linebacker off of the couch.
Mhm.
His name was AJ Klein. He was 43. Like we didn't have Matt Milano, we didn't have Bernard. So obviously Patrick Mahomes was just peppering Travis Kelce like all day. And why wouldn't you? Right? Because like
Right.
that's clearly their weakness.
Mhm.
And then last year, Benford ended up going down with a concussion, like right within that first quarter, and then you see Mahomes start to pepper Xavier Worthy right up against Kyer Elam, who's an absolute bum. So it's funny you mentioned McDermott because I always like telling people is McDermott has the exact same insurance policy as Mike Tomlin does with Pittsburgh. This ownership also owns the Buffalo Sabres. I'm not sure if you're a hockey fan, but
I'm not, but I know that they're pretty good, right?
this year,
This
but
year, I mean. Yeah.
as of late, an awful organization. It's been a
Okay.
dumpster fire. So I
Mhm.
think they look at the Bills as like their saving grace because they remember that 17-year period where we made no playoffs whatsoever. So why I don't particularly think that he should stay or that I would be open to finding a new head coach, I just don't think there's a shot in the gun range that he's gonna be gone unless he goes 1 year without missing the playoffs entirely. That's
Yeah.
when he's truly gonna be gone.
Yeah, and I think and I've talked to, on our podcast we had earlier this week, me O'Brien, who's, tapped in with the Jags locker room,
Yeah.
but she mentioned, maybe it's the GM, Brandon Beane that's the one that's on the hot seat this year, and then I'm thinking, then a short leash for McDermott next season.
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
that makes sense. But anyways, this isn't a Bills podcast, Bills and Jags. We got a great game coming up. So let's get into the head-to-head matchups this week. We talked a little bit about coaching staff. What's your thought about just initially the game as well as the Jags from an outside perspective?
Yeah, man. So first off, I do think that there's a false dichotomy out there that Jaguars fans think that I'm saying that you are an awful, fraudulent organization. That's the furthest from the truth.
No,
And so I have all the respect in the world. I put out a boneheaded take earlier this offseason where I thought Liam Cohen was going to be a failure.
I saw that.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm calling myself out here rather than waiting for it to happen later on in the show.
Yeah,
But I mean, look, like what you guys have been able to accomplish with the first year head coach is certainly impressive. What you've been able to do defensively is equally impressive, especially since, for the most part, you have about 80 to 90% of your personnel returning from last year.
exactly.
So that goes to show you how great of a coach you truly have. 13 wins, first year coach, that is completely unheard of. Why I look at this game and why that like I've been pointing out things or weaknesses on the Jaguars is what I do each and every single week. Like it's not me saying that okay, this team is bad, but since we're in a salary cap type league, what I like to do is point out ways and how I think that my team needs to attack them.
Right.
And when it comes into particular matchups going into this, if Jacksonville were to attain that second seed, genuinely believe that Buffalo and Jacksonville would have met in the AFC Championship. I just think that this is the worst possible matchup for Jacksonville. Congrats.
Yeah.
And so you won 13 games this year. Like you're on an absolute heater.
Yeah.
But now you're getting perhaps one of the best playoff quarterbacks of all time. So, like, that's kind of where I'm at. But I don't know. It's going to be a heart attack game. That much I can tell you.
Uh, I I think you guys drew the shortest stick. Like
Mhm.
Jags, I could say that. I'm gonna say that. I think you guys could have gotten another win or two in the playoffs, but I feel like Jacksonville's your hardest matchup. I mean,
Mhm.
we saw what happened, when you played the Texans. Obviously, they're a better team, defensively than we are. But I
Yeah.
just think the way that the Jags are playing, and you can look at the opponents. Like Denver's our best game,
Yeah.
that we win, the best win that we have. But if you look at the other games, yeah, you could say it's a little bit of a softer second half of the schedule that we had. But the main thing you got to look at is the confidence this team has going into the playoffs. Like we beat, the teams like a lot of times, like you guys played Cleveland, it was 23-20, or you
Mhm.
played Miami, you lost the 30 to, and that was a little few more weeks ago, but 30-13 or something like that. So when we do play bad teams, we beat them like a good team would, you know what I mean?
Of
So
course.
I would say it's still a really fun matchup. I think it's easily the best matchup of the wild card weekend.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would say it's a tough
Yeah.
one for you guys more than it is for us.
Sure. Sort of how I look at it was this, right? Like me going into the playoffs from a Bills fan's perspective, I was focusing on, all right, what are the teams that I want to stay away that have a dynamic running back that is top 5 in explosive plays that can absolutely destroy our run defense? And then
Mhm.
what's a team that has quality pass rush? And I looked at the Jacksonville Jaguars and I was just like, okay, so they're bottom of the league when it comes into pressure. They're
Yep.
bottom of the league when it comes into sort of sack percentage, but all while still blitzing top 5 most in the league. And when it comes into most advanced metrics on the run side of things, it's not something that they particularly are known for. That's not their
Mhm.
identity over there. And granted, I would say with the Buffalo Bills secondary, I don't buy into the fact that we're the best secondary in the NFL because we've held our opponents to the least amount of yards. I acknowledge that, right? But I
Yeah.
still think that we are a solid like pass defense. And while Trevor has been on a heater, I sort of look at it from this perspective. Sean McDermott has his flaws indeed, but he's built on secondary. He gets
Mhm.
the most out of everybody that's out there. And schematically, he's going to be showing Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohn some of the most disguised coverages you have seen in a multitude of different facets
Yep.
that I trust how our corners are going to line up against your receivers, right? Like with Trevor Lawrence, he loves big plays. He's a big play hunter, right? Like does
Yeah.
not throw the football away. He's not a check down guy. What Buffalo is likely going to do defensively is that they are all but going to force Trevor Lawrence to
For
take those
underneath.
check downs and to
Yeah.
take the underneath stuff, hoping that he gets bored and hoping that he gets trapped into a downfield situation.
Right.
So, like when I look at the Bills' two Achilles heels, Jax just hasn't had either of those things. Hence why I was like, okay, I'm glad we're not going to Baltimore and going up against Derrick Henry to
Mhm.
gash us for 200 on the ground. I'm glad we're not going back into NRG Stadium either and getting destroyed by one of the best pass rushes. So
Right.
it's still going to be a good one. Like I said, I'm not saying that Jacksonville is going to go into this game and walk out with 3 points scored. No, I think you
Yeah.
guys are going to achieve well over 24. But I don't know.
No, I feel
What
you.
about you?
And what you're saying too, like I think there's a middle ground, not only in I don't think the Bills have the number one, best defense, when it comes to covering the pass. But
Yeah.
also the same thing you could say about Jacksonville. Like it's a little bit more. I think it's different. I think Jacksonville's run defense is a little bit better. If you're going to put either of those head to head, but it's close to the middle. Um, Pass rush is always a big thing for us too that we worry about. Like we get around the quarterback, we turn the
Yeah.
ball over because of that most of the time too. Josh Hines Allen in this game and really in the playoff needs to have his
He's a dog.
play his best though. Him and Trayvon and we need to get these quarterbacks on the ground in the playoffs. It's
Yep.
all fine in the regular season, but I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Let's go into the head to heads a little bit more though. So Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence. We talked about both of them a little bit here, but who you taking in this game? Trevor's probably playing the hottest out of anybody in the league right now, you could say.
Mhm.
Obviously, Josh has a track record.
Yeah.
Um, Superman probably top one or two in the league.
Mhm.
So who you who you taking?
And so I have to pick my guy,
Yeah,
right? Like, for the most part,
I would
I do
I would
try to
in fairness, I would also pick your guy
Yeah,
most of the
yeah.
time, but if you're gonna say who's playing better, I'm gonna say Trevor.
Yeah. Would certainly say that he's playing better, but I do want to acknowledge that he also has an offensive-minded head coach. He also has some weapons that, like, are able to, like, stretch the field, of course, outside of the tight end side of things.
Yeah.
And plus, look, dude, like, I was public enemy number 1 with Bills fans about halfway through this season because
Mhm.
when everyone was trying to figure out what was wrong with the Bills offense, like, when we dropped that ugly one to Miami or, like, we dropped that ugly one to the Pats earlier on,
Yep.
like, I was one of the few saying, "Guys, like, you're blind. It's Josh Allen and his turnovers. That's why we're losing these games. It's not screenplays. It's not anything. And several people were very mad at me about that. But how I look at the playoffs, it's hard for me to go with Trevor Lawrence, especially when I know what type of pedigree that Josh Allen has when this time sort of comes around, right?
Right.
As far as Trevor as well, um, um, super talented. He's doing his thing, but I do acknowledge that this defense is likely going to strategically try and take away Jacoby Myers while Parker Washington is going to hurt you downfield. I feel like Jacoby is far more your third down safety blanket. Like he's your intermediate guy, and he's the guy that's going to consistently hurt you.
Right.
Then going back into Josh Allen, while this Jaguars secondary is leading in like takeaways, right? It still has some holes. It's like, I think second, like right in the league for allowing 300 plus yard passing games. So as long as Josh Allen doesn't shoot himself in the foot, doesn't generate any turnovers, which he doesn't statistically in the playoffs, I have a feeling that he should find several openings right in the pass game, specifically with the tight ends.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say when it comes to Josh Allen versus our secondary is kind of like our offensive line. We got a good group of guys that are C plus players that have been playing above what they're graded normally. And one of those guys too, like Antonio Johnson, is PFF, at least for them, they have him rated as the number one safety in the league. Whether you believe that or not, but he's playing much better. And what you talked about with Liam and coaching, Coach Camp's doing a really good job too this year, developing guys. So I don't think we have any like crazy playmakers back there, but we do have a really solid group. As far as like Trevor is concerned versus Josh Allen, I think versus your defense, you have to tell me more about, Russo and Epinesa. Like, do you see them getting after Trevor that much in this game?
So Van Lannon, he's questionable going into Sunday, right?
It doesn't look good. I was just talking to a buddy about this. It doesn't look like he's going to play. So if Walker Little's at left tackle, you got a decent shot.
Okay. So while Greg Russo and Joey Bosa have had their flashes this year, most of the pressure that comes from getting to the quarterback is a lot of simulated pressures that you're seeing from the linebackers.
Okay.
It's typically only in the second half. Like we're out there rolling with all three linebackers, and they give you such a variety of different looks based off of who they're truly sending, like for pressure. Sometimes like they're dropping like AJ Epinesa out into coverage.
Yeah.
It's something that's surprisingly enough a Ryan Nielsen wrinkle. I'm sure Jags fans are like, oh, but
we do something similar too with our defensive ends and even defensive tackles at times too.
Yeah, but normally, since Ed Oliver and Michael Hoyt went down with season-ending injuries, we went from like a pretty consistent pressuring defensive line to, I'd say, relatively below average. Okay. But how they've been able to respond to that have been those simulated pressures. And they utilize this linebacker named Dorian Williams very well for like the spy mirror type player that has really, really helped and caused a lot of problems for a lot of quarterbacks this year.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Where do we want to take it? I think you mentioned another thing too about the tight ends. I think James Cook and Kincaid and Knox, those are really the only guys that I think give you guys a chance in the passing game. I do think we sell out against the run against James Cook as much as we can. It's a fine line. It sounds stupid. I mentioned this earlier this week. Like I would almost like pressure, like almost put the onus on Josh Allen, and it's really not even on him. It's on the wide receiving core that you guys have to beat us, because I think we're gonna load the box with a good portion of the game. And I think James Cook's probably going to stay under that 75 yards. When he goes over 100, you guys usually win. So I think they know that's a key. I do think he's closer to receiving, like on these checkdowns. If you look at when we played the Texans or when we played Vegas, things like that, the checkdowns and throwing it to him, he could have 100 receiving yards versus us. I think that's where you're going to have a little bit more success.
Mhm.
And the tight ends, we historically struggle with them. So the good news for us, though, is, when Kincaid's in the game, it's pretty obvious you guys are throwing it.
Yeah.
So I think as
Yeah,
far
he's
as
shit at run blocking. He's awful at run
yeah,
blocking.
I think as far as moving the ball, that's your best case scenario. And then Josh Allen maybe on some design runs or something like that. But
Yeah.
um,
So
I think it's gonna be a higher scoring game than most people think. I think it's gonna be
oh,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely gonna hit the over.
yeah,
It's definitely gonna hit the over. Going back right into your run defense, I'm really curious to see what type of ego your defensive coordinator has,
how do you
because
mean?
Jacksonville, they, like, lead the league in light boxes against the run. Like,
Mm,
they are almost
yeah, we played
80%
nickel.
of the time in nickel.
Mhm.
So, I'm kind of curious if he starts the game off by saying, "No, I'm not taking guys out of coverage right now. Like, we have a very good run defense, and we have been locked down with only 6 to 7 men in the box at any given moment."
Yeah.
I truly wonder if they're going to say, "Okay, we're gonna do what is completely out of character and actually sell out on the run and stack the box." I wonder what they're going to do,
It's a
because
good
ego
question.
plays a role with it. Like,
Yeah.
so with Buffalo does the exact same thing. Like, right in Houston, like,
Mhm.
we refused, and so to have those jumbo packages with an extra offensive lineman, because we said, "Yeah, like, Houston's pass rush is great, but we have the best offensive line in all of football, so
And
we're
then
just gonna
yeah.
roll with 5."
Yeah.
That was an awful decision, but it took us a long time until the ego is finally killed and we made those adjustments. So I wonder if Jacksonville is gonna do the same thing.
What I think is gonna happen, because you bring up a good point, like, I don't think we're gonna have 8 guys in the box, obviously, the whole game. So what I
Yeah,
think is gonna happen is we have a pretty deep safety group that most of them are really truly like box safeties. Like Antonio Johnson, Andrew Wingard, and then you also have Eric Murray, all really good tackling safeties as well. Antonio Johnson in college played primarily in the slot. He was more of a nickel, box safety than anything else. That's what I think is going to happen. I think, we have Jarian Jones in the slot for most of the time, who also is pretty physical in the run game. So I wouldn't really be too worried about keeping him in there. But if they want to add like a little bit of a wrinkle, I think they play three safeties a lot in this game, where
interesting.
where you get Tony Johnson, who's a bigger safety anyways. I think they put him or Wingard in the box as that like nickel safety. So that's what I would see coming, because with Shakir too, it's a fine line. It's like, well, if you do that, then you're going to get a mismatch with Shakir, but Camp throws a lot of things. He will throw the kitchen sink at you as far as different looks. So you're going to see all of it.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a lot.
yeah. It's cool, like, how both of these teams are going to attack this schematically. Like,
Oh
so
yeah,
this is where, like, you literally open up sort of the entire playbook going into these games.
yeah,
But, I mean, we'll see, like, one of the biggest debates has been, "Oh, man, like, Josh, like, has, like, a limited wide receiving room." But there has been a bit of chemistry established with Brandon Cooks. It took us about 2 to 3 games for him to, finally, like, make that decision to start catching the damn football.
right.
But, like, he's finally, like, that outside guy. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. That's the beauty of our business, my friend, is that no matter how well spoken anybody is,
Right,
all we are spewing is what we think we know
right.
from the tippity top all the way down from the beginners. It's how it is.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
I think there's really 3 things that I'm worried about in this game. It's not really a concern, but it used to be a problem for us, is shooting ourselves in the foot. And I
Yeah.
think that's how we keep Buffalo in the game. Because I think we have an opportunity. I think it will be a close game, but I also think the way that we're playing and with injuries, stacking up against you guys, kind of having a little bit of an off year, we're rolling. So we're at home. I think there's a lot of good things going for us and a lot of bad things going for you guys right now. So I feel like we have an opportunity to win by maybe 7 to 10 points in this game. But I do think it'll be closer. But my point is, we'll see. I think in total, like, my biggest worry is if we're gonna shoot ourselves in the foot with turnovers,
Mhm.
penalties, and explosive plays. Those are the
Yeah.
top 3 things. If we do that,
Yeah.
Bills can definitely win the game.
Yeah. Um, luckily, so the head official, Brad Allen,
Mhm.
he calls the least amount of offensive holding, like, penalties, and he calls about 3 penalties less than everybody else in the league.
Okay.
So, based off of his officiating style, I think that the refs are gonna let this game play out. So
Gotcha.
that should be ideal, and, like, when it comes into Buffalo as well, like, while you guys lead the league in penalties called against, we
Mhm.
lead the league in offensive holding penalties. I think a
Hmm.
lot of that has to do with what Aaron Kromer, our offensive line coach, has sort of put together within run blocking,
Yeah.
that, like, it's just clear as day for some of these officials, but it's it's interesting because you and I are really on the exact same page.
Mhm.
Because when I look at Buffalo and, like, we look at all of these losses and people always like looking at like this, oh, it's James Cook not being able to run for over 75 yards. That's why Buffalo has always lost. The real thing is 2 plus turnovers is why the Buffalo Bills have lost each and every single game. Or it's like you start too slow offensively, which is you'll notice that there's a key difference between this Buffalo Bills team from a discipline perspective in the first half with a shit ton of drive killing calls that
Okay.
really put us in a bottle
Yeah.
compared to the second. So my biggest concern is y'all's propensity of being able to take the football away. I've been telling Bills fans, I've been saying, look, if Jacksonville takes the football away twice, so with um so they will win this game.
Yeah.
But say that they only take it away once or 0, then I think Buffalo probably will squeak by and get past you guys.
It's gonna be a fun game regardless. I
For
think,
sure.
at the end of the day, like, what's the biggest concern you have going in this game as a Buffalo Bills fan?
Lloyd's a dog. Lloyd is, I think, your best defensive player. I think that he brings a lot to the table. And then really, and so I'd say your ball hawks
Mhm.
too, right? And like one thing more so with Josh Allen, sometimes I feel like his confidence gets ahead of him and he says no of things that so what that defense gives him. There has been so many, like all 22 examples where we saw a guy wide open in the flat or wide open on the check down, but he's still trying to like scramble around and try and find somebody downfield.
Yep.
I need him to take his profits regardless. Like,
Sounds
he,
like you guys have a Trevor Lawrence in Buffalo too. Like
yeah, 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 yeah,
that's
dude.
where I think
Same
Trevor has
thing.
done a really good job this season is
Yeah,
correcting that and not playing hero ball. And
yeah,
I think what you're talking about is forcing him to take the underneath stuff. This version of Trevor Lawrence is a
yeah,
lot smarter, a lot more efficient. Like I
yeah.
do think that if especially with the weapons we have underneath, like if you're going to say, okay, we're going to go back a little bit, not let the deep dig routes to Jacoby or these deep shots to BT, like arguably, I think the strength of this team is actually the amount of different guys we have. Like Parker will kill you underneath and Yak. Brenton
Oh yeah,
Strange will kill you underneath and Yak.
yeah,
ETN and Tootin will kill you underneath and Yak.
yeah,
So like you better be able to tackle because if
yeah.
that's gonna be a long day. So
Hmm.
it's fun because there's that I think that's
Yeah.
the strength of our team right now is we have so many, and it's not like household names, but so many different guys that have a specific niche that Trevor can be that point guard and go to. It's like you can't really take anything away. And then same thing, like what we haven't
Yeah.
even talked about our run game, which it's not our offensive line's not in the beginning of the season, first half, even into the
Oh, yeah.
Chargers game, we ran it
Yeah.
47 times against Chargers. Like that, it could be one of those games, or it could be Trevor slicing and dicing. Like Liam Cohen has a real good scheme, but more importantly, like I think he can he can press the buttons no matter what you do against him. That's what makes us tough.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny when it comes into quarterbacks like ours because I really think that most professional quarterbacks wanna throw piss missiles all down the field.
Mhm.
All of them do. And half of the reason why I think Josh had, like, this lull in the middle of the season this year was just because he was getting bored of that. Last year,
Yeah.
that won him an MVP by taking his profits
Yeah.
and leveraging our wide receiving core, which doesn't have any household names, but they are very talented in yards after the catch. I genuinely believe that quarterbacks get bored with that.
Mhm.
And there's only so long you can hold them into doing that before they say, "Screw it. I'm gonna find something downfield," and boom. So there's your turnover.
Yeah.
So, And so I need boring Josh Allen.
That's fair.
And,
That's fair.
and so Bills fans hate that, but like it's hard to argue with the results. We win games when Josh Allen's like that.
Yeah. Um, I think the last thing I want to touch on too is just what do you think's the biggest X factor in this game for you guys? Like somebody that nobody's really thinking about that could have a big game or needs to have a big game for you guys in order to win outside the obvious, Josh Allen, James Cook, that sort of thing.
Yeah, man, most definitely. I think that I would say our kick returner, Ray Davis, who recently just got first team All Pro honors,
Nice.
which is awesome. He's leading the league in starting field position for the Buffalo Bills, and he regularly ends up bringing it to very favorable starting field positions 45, 50, even sometimes.
Okay.
We need to win that special teams battle. And so y'all's unit is definitely solid, but we need to make the most out of each and every single trip. And then number one, like we just need to collectively and cohesively put together what we have been putting out on the second half offense into the first half.
Right.
That is key. As far as a player, it's Ray Davis and the special and this it's a returning game, but
Yep.
that's where I'm at.
I think you're gonna have a long day if that's what you're hoping for, because our units in general. I mean, we've had a couple games where we've given a couple plays, but I think hands down we have easily the best special teams in the
Yeah.
game. Punting, kicking with Cam Little, all the guys in coverage. We have special teams demons all over the place. So that's what's really fun this year. Jags, we haven't had a lot of fun most years. So this year to have such a complete team, we feel like it's a lot of fun. We just want to keep the party going too. But I will say this too. That's me as like a Jags fan. This group is not happy just getting to the dance. Like even when we won the AFC South, everybody in the locker room was just like, okay,
Great.
what
Yeah.
we're supposed to do, like on to the next one. So it's a different vibe than it has been for years. And having the front office with Baselli, Gladstone, Liam, like Trevor's come around, like now it's getting really fun for us where we feel like this is here to stay. We
Yeah.
felt like that in 22. We had a small glimpse of it, but this time feels way different.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
It's solid stuff. Like so many things that need to be implemented appropriately from both teams. Something I didn't mention too is third down battle. Like
Mhm.
that is a big X factor to this game, right? What third down defense is going to get the most out of these respective offenses, right? And so the
Yeah.
Buffalo Bills are fourth and third down conversion rates, while the Jacksonville Jaguars are like 20th as far as defensively. But
Against defense.
then while the Jacksonville Jaguars struggle offensively with third downs, so do the Buffalo Bills defensively. So what
Mhm.
defense is going to have answers on third down? Because while I think we're thinking that it's going to be a high scoring game, I kind of wonder if the game plan, at least for a portion of this, is going to be sort of play keep away
Yeah.
from both quarterbacks. So
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
I have a sneaky feeling this game's gonna start off slow, and then the second half, like, all shit's gonna break loose. I just have, like, one of those, like, sneaky suspicions, like,
Oh yeah,
you might see, like, 10-7 in the first half,
yeah,
and somebody could score, 35 plus points.
yeah. No. Like funny enough, I have the Jags leading 21-7 rate into the halftime.
There you go. Well, I
Yeah,
think that's a good segue for the last piece. We'll wrap on this. Let's give some predictions. So we typically do offensive player of the game, defensive player of the game for each team, and then a score prediction.
cool,
So
cool.
we'll do offensive first. Who you got for offensive player of the game?
So the offensive player of the game, I have James Cook.
Okay.
I think that he is going to surpass that 75 yards. I think he's actually going to do about 120.
Okay.
I think that Buffalo
Combined
is
or
going
rushing? All
rushing.
purpose?
Yeah,
Really? Okay.
rushing. Yeah, 120 on rushing. And it's based off of how I was looking at the matchup against Denver last year. So like
Okay.
we all heard last year about how elite this run defense was like over in Denver. And so they had like almost identical yards per carry against. They had like nearly the same ranking EPA, DVOA, what have you. And
Mhm.
then with James Cook rushed for over 120. And all we were doing was just spamming outside zone over and over and over again
Yeah.
and operating out of 13 personnel. So I think that we're actually going to have some success on that side of the ball. I really do. Like people think it's like, oh no, it's going to be Josh and he's going to have to put the cape on. No, I think that it's going to be yeah, I
It's
think
not
it's
the
gonna
strength.
be Jimbo.
Yeah, weirdly enough, it's not the strength of your team. So
Mhm.
I agree with you doubling down on the run and
Yeah.
the heavy defense. Who you got?
Man, so the defensive player, I am probably gonna have to go with Joey Bosa, surprisingly enough.
Okay.
I think that
If
it's
he
gonna
doesn't
have
get
to do
thrown
with
out
the
of
fact
the
that
game or throw his helmet, like he'll be all right.
surprisingly enough, he's been pretty calm in Buffalo. I'm not sure if it's the small town vibes
Yeah,
that have made him calm down a little bit from that
yeah.
craziness in LA. I don't know. But I do think that he's actually going to play a bit of a factor in the pressure department, especially if Van Lanen is out.
Yeah,
As far as secondary is concerned, so I trust Christian Benford so to lock down whoever
probably
is
Myers.
lining up against. So I think it's going to be Jacoby Myers,
Yeah, me too.
who more
You
than
guys
likely he's going to be on.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. I was just gonna say, you guys, if there's one thing you have to take away, it's that deep dig route. That's our bread and butter. If you can take that away, like with Jacoby, I
Yeah,
mean, it's gonna be tough too, but anyways, keep going.
yeah, yeah. And so I always tell the fans, I'm like, you know what? Like, you have to choose who is going to consistently hurt you rather than just occasionally hurt you. And
Yeah.
with while Parker Washington has his explosiveness, I would rather just completely commit to two high safety shell and let Parker Washington get like two or three deep shots every now and again. It's much more
Mhm.
valuable in my eyes. And so to erase Myers from the game, that's me. Um, and then final score prediction you need.
Yep.
Okay. Final score prediction. Like I said, I think the Buffalo Bills are going to be down 21-7 going into the game. And then as soon as we end up getting into the second half, that's when you see the number one second half scoring offense in the NFL. That
Mhm.
we ultimately end up seeing the number three scoring defense in the second half of the NFL, the number four so the scoring defense on away games. And I think that we ultimately end up scoring 24 points on top of that.
Okay.
And then I think the Jaguars are held to 3. Buffalo Bills ultimately end up winning that one.
Interesting. Okay.
35-23. Yeah.
Nice. I'll roll through mine quick. So offensive player of the game, it's gonna sound crazy to Bills fans. It's really not gonna be this case because I agree. I think they're gonna really lean and double down into the run game. But I think Trevor Lawrence is definitely gonna outduel Josh Allen. It's not gonna look that way. I think maybe in the box score, but at least we
Yeah.
can say that it happened.
Mhm.
So I think that's gonna happen. I think he has too many options for you guys. That's my biggest thing. As long as the offensive line gives him time, whether we're running the ball, I think we'll be pretty balanced on offense. But I think Trevor playing exactly how he's been playing the last 8 weeks, I don't see anything changing. Um, so that's why I really didn't pick a skill position. As
Yeah.
far as defense player of the game, I'm going Devin Lloyd. Between him and Foye might have a million tackles in this game if you guys are going to run it that much. So it could be more Foye, but I also think Devin, when it comes to spying Josh Allen or sending him on a blitz, or maybe he gets a turnover by getting an interception, something against one of these tight ends, I can see that happening. And then as far as a score, I'm going to go 31-28 Jags.
Okay.
I do think, like I said, it's going to start slow, but then the second half is going to really be popping. It could really come down to Cam Little at the end of the game, but I think what's going to most likely happen is we'll be up, 10. You guys will get a late touchdown, and Jags move on.
Well, damn, man. Well, damn, brother. I know that both of us are gonna have high blood pressure like crazy tomorrow.
Oh, it's
So
gonna be stressful. Yeah.
I mean as always, it's just something with playoff football, you know?
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, Dan, I really appreciate you jumping on, bud. Tell the people where they can find you, at least for my channel. I think they found you already. So I've heard a lot of people want you on. So tell them where you can find you.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely, guys. Y'all can find me virtually everywhere at Real Dan Mitchell. Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube. I'm there.
All right. Awesome, buddy. Well, I appreciate the time. Go Jags.
Fair.
And we'll go from there. All right.